What is going on, collectors? Optical 20 back for another video. Today we are going to take a look at Hot Toys Supergirl from the movie The Flash. And you can not pre-order this anymore. It's actually sold out, but if you are not subscribed, this is the perfect time to subscribe because this figure has come in and out of Big Bad. And if you're not familiar with the channel, every time that there's like a random drop, I'll put it on the post. So, just keep an eye on it if you are in the lookout for this figure. But Supergirl, the packaging looks amazing. This is my first figure from the movie The Flash, and this won't be the last. I also pre-ordered The Flash himself. Still thinking about Batman, the Keaton Batman, but I'm so close to pulling the trigger on that one. I'm not too concerned about that. That's widely available, so I know I'm gonna have some time, but at least I was able to secure the two harder ones, which is Supergirl and Flash. Supergirl, anything Superman or anything with a super on it is a given. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it regardless of what I feel about the movie. So I rewatched the movie recently. Initially, I thought it wasn't as bad as people make it out to be. I watched it in the theaters. I am guessing that I'm just justifying my ticket purchase because the second rewatch wasn't as good as I thought it was. It's still watchable. It's not the worst movie that I've seen, but it's not as enjoyable as I thought it was. But Supergirl is still pretty awesome. The figure, the Flash, is still looking amazing, so no regrets on pre-ordering those. But the Supergirl was a must-have, priced pretty competitively, honestly. The figure, as you can see here, it doesn't come with much. You see the hands. Just Supergirl herself looks pretty sweet. You got the beautiful base, which I'm surprised on how good it turned out. Feels a little plasticky once you hold him on your hand, but once you pop in that USB-C LED function, then it takes it to a whole new level. It is pretty darn good once you do that. It does come with a flight pole, and that's pretty much it. This would have been a prime candidate for a second head sculpt, to be quite honest with you, because she doesn't come with much. You got the fisted hands that comes with a figure. This feels like, I want to say the expressive hands, but it also looks like those, kind of, I don't know, it's different. This is the relaxed palm hands, but you can also, I guess, call them the flying hands. Because you have two expressive hands like this, maybe fighting hands with Zod. You can call it that as well. And then you can see the blue part where it looks like it is a part of the suit. Now this waist clamp is really small. And then the Supergirl logo, you see Supergirl out there. It looks pretty cool. The entire base itself just feels light and plasticky. It does work. You get a USB-C here, a power bank. I just noticed that the S kind of curls towards the end out there, and then you turn, you just plug it in. So you can see there's a on and off in the back. So we'll move the hands out, turn it on. It might not be that noticeable, but keep in mind, I have a lot of lights. Then it bleeds right here on the top, so it is red. So let me turn off the 4 lights that I have in here, because just to show you. Look at that looks up. You know what would have been even cooler? If the S was a bit translucent, so you could see it from there. But right now you do have a silhouette of her chest logo, but it still looks pretty cool. I must say, even with lights, it is still pretty bright. So no regrets there whatsoever. Let's look at the tailoring for this figure. This feels like any Spider-Man, if you've ever had any suit. It is kind of thin. You can stretch it out. The colors are vibrant. The blue are, they really do pop, along with the reds in here, reminiscent of the Superman from Justice League. That is, I would say, the best description on how bright this is. And then you have some printed materials. You can't remove them like on the gauntlet. If you've ever had any Man of Steel or Superman before, you know what I mean here. And then you look at the sculpted material on her hands are pretty consistent with the pattern all over the suit. And then at the bottom of her shoe, there is a rubber sole that's there. And then you have a wired cape. And as you can see here, I don't know if anyone can actually do a custom. I bet you could, but you're going to have to saw the actual cape into the body. And that feels more hassle than anything to me. I am pretty satisfied on how the cape turned out. I love the color combination. Of course, it's Supergirl, red, blue, yellow, but the pattern and the way it's seamless and it flows, I am a big fan of this. And now for the head sculpt. And this might not be the perfect head sculpt that I have, but this is the only one that I do have at the moment. It's hard to get a close-up of Supergirl online, but here you go. I think it turned out to be pretty darn good. With rolling eyeball system, and as always, you cannot remove any of her hairpiece. That would have been a good addition, as a matter of fact. Kind of like John Wick, because I do have him now, where, you know, some of the hair is falling in her face and whatnot, although not really needed. Honestly, I would have preferred a second head sculpt with, because if you remember on the movie, she got mad at Zod and she started, you know, doing that laser eyes, and that's pretty prominent on the movie. And for someone who does not have any other accessories, that would have been a good option. But I understand this was not the most popular movie. As a matter of fact, Hot Toys canceled the Young Barry that was supposed to be released maybe later on as well. And that bums me out, because I rewatched the movie. Like I said, it's not the worst movie, but the figures turned out to be pretty darn good. So I wasn't sure if I was going to buy it. So I might be part of the problem here. And to be fair though, it's very rare that I pre-order. The only ones that I pre-ordered is Wolverine, and that's my only pre-order so far. You gotta be on the top of my list, but you know, it's unfortunate because I want to see that as well. Now let's jump into the articulation. You can see the heads, you know, just it's kind of free in there. There's no neck movement though. On the arms, you can raise it up pretty high, and even though it's bunching up, I bet you it would heal itself, kind of like any Spider-Man figure. I mean, it still would leave some creases, but you know, I wouldn't worry about it too much. But for me, I'm lacking space anyway. There's no waist movement though. There's an upper crunch, which is separated here in her torso, but I'm surprised that there is no waist articulation here. There's thigh swivel. You can see there's a toe articulation, the threads on her shoe. That's pretty cool. Kind of like, again, like Spider-Man. Bicep swivel. You can bend the knee pretty tight. That is cool. You can lift it up, you know, pretty cool as well. You know, it's a pretty good, pretty articulated figure. And there's a lot of poses you could do. And the suit is not that restrictive. The body, particularly the waist and the abdomen area, is a little stiff with no articulation there. And you can see the cape. And we'll put her in some poses before we wrap this thing up. The wired cape is selling the illusion here of air. And I like the wire cape. moving forward, I always thought that they should include both capes. Again, especially for a figure like this, after receiving the in-art Superman, which is the gold standard for something that's not rooted, I feel like that should be the model, but maybe for DX, maybe not for an MMS figure. But again, that would have been a good inclusion, but I can't complain. The price for this is pretty good. And this is her kind of flying in the air. And as you can see, the wires on this cape is pretty strong, and I didn't notice up until now that there's patterns on this cape. You can see it's very subtle, but there is. And here she is, maybe like flying into the air or in the process of just ascending up. So you can see the trajectory of her cape right there. Pretty cool. The only downside is because of the neck is fixed on the body, you don't have a lot of movement. And here she is fighting over Zod in the desert in the last scene of the movie. Again, the cape flowing into the side, just kind of like with movement in there. And luckily, I still have my Zod. This is something that I would not sell, even my Jor-El. I just love Man of Steel. So, everyone thought Zod, we're going to see a Zod 2.0. That didn't happen. It would never happen. Zod 1.0 barely sold out back in the day. And it's one of those underrated figures, to be quite honest with you. Now he's in 2 films, or 3 if you want to count BBS. He made an appearance there. So I got my money's worth with the Zod. And to be quite honest, it's a pretty good figure. And here is the Superman family. I think they made her a tad too short, but nonetheless still looks good next to in-art Henry Cavill and the Hot Toys Justice League Superman. So like I said, the blue is a lot closer to the Justice League version than the BVS. The BVS is more muted blue, a more darker blue. That's a darker movie as well, compared to the Justice League Superman. But look at that. That looks wonderful right there. Final thoughts on this figure. If you have the chance to pick this up, I highly recommend this. Now, with that being said, I'm watching the price for this figure skyrocket now. I think it's upwards of $350 to $400, which is crazy. This just came out. I guess they didn't make a whole lot of her, but just hang on tight. I'm pretty sure it'll come back at some point. It'll go back. You'll see this restock just like other figures out there. They said Batman it was sold out. The non what do you call that? The one that is not Ben Affleck, and it's still available at Big Bad, even with a motorcycle. Now this, who knows, right? But I don't know. I believe that at some point you would see this restock, kind of like Bane. And they pop out here and there, to be quite honest with you. Flash just pop out maybe a couple of weeks ago. That's how I bought him, still at Big Bad Toy Store. So, but I highly recommend this figure. Even if you didn't like the movie, if you are a Superman fan, it's going to be a while till we get a new Supergirl. And I think the actress Sasha did whatever she could. I think she did a great job on the role itself. And honestly, she just looks badass. She looks pretty cool. But let me know in the comments down below, how do you think about this figure or the entire line of the Flash? How do you think about his costume? Are you open on having a figure from that film, or you just really despise it? Let me know in the comments. Would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you